for eligible families earning less than $530,000. The Parenthood's Georgie Dent says families needed financial relief when this policy was conceived 2.5 years ago.
The cheaper childcare package that's coming into effect in July cannot come soon enough. When you think about what the last 2.5 years have entailed, just from a cost of living perspective, we know that families in Australia pay some of the most expensive out-of-pocket fees for early education and care in the world, and that was before this sort of cost of living crisis that we've got.
The death toll from the mass shooting in the US city of Monterey Park has risen to 11. More from Harry Sekulich.
Californian authorities say one of the people hospitalized in yesterday's mass shooting has died due to extensive injuries. At least 9 others were injured when a 72-year-old man opened fire inside a dance hall during Lunar New Year celebrations. He then attempted to storm into a second hall, but was disarmed by patrons near the entrance. Armed officers later closed in on the vehicle he had escaped in and was found dead inside after turning a handgun on himself. Police are still investigating the motive behind the attack.
Sweden's application to join NATO could once again be in jeopardy after Turkey threatened to veto its proposed membership of the alliance. Here's our Europe correspondent, Steve Canane.
Turkey's president says Sweden should not expect his country to support its membership of NATO after a Quran was burnt at a protest near its embassy in Stockholm on the weekend. In a speech following a meeting of his cabinet, President Erdogan accused Sweden of allowing blasphemy in front of its embassy. The burning of the Quran was carried out by Rasmus Paludan, the leader of a Danish far-right party who also has Swedish citizenship. President Erdogan has previously threatened to veto Sweden's application after accusing it of providing a haven for what he describes as Kurdish terrorists. Steve Canane, ABC News.
A leading demographer says Japan's low birth rate is putting pressure on the country's labour force. Official estimates say there were only 800,000 births in Japan last year, a new record low. At a median age of 49, Japan is one of the oldest countries in the world, and the population has been declining for decades. Professor of Sociology at Harvard University, Mary C. Brinton, has told ABC News Radio that with the latest figures, the country's labour crisis is only going to get worse.
The country is running out of labour, and there's been a labour shortage for a number of years, and it's simply going to get worse and worse if the birth rate does not increase.
And police say excessive speed led to a police pursuit in Sydney's inner west, which ended in a fatal crash. Early this morning, highway patrol officers began pursuing a car in Stratfield. And you're up to date with the latest ABC News. You're listening to ABC News Radio. I'm Andy Pressland, coming to you from Gadigal Land. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in the program.
I understand that the Prime Minister is travelling there. I know the Chief Minister is heading down there this morning as well. I think it's a positive that both are going down there to see what is occurring on the ground.
Debate grows about how to combat growing violence in Alice Springs ahead of an expected visit to the city by Anthony Albanese. And the latest on the Monterey Park shooting that's now claimed 11 lives. Sunny in Canberra, Adelaide and Perth, cloudy in Sydney, showers possible elsewhere. The Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is expected to travel to Alice Springs today as debate grows over how to deal with high rates of crime in the city. There's been 43% increase in assaults over the past 12 months, with relaxed rules on alcohol availability being blamed. Pressure is building on the Northern Territory and federal governments to act. Matthew Doran reports.
We're seeking confirmation as to exactly when he will arrive, but it seems like the Northern Territory Police Commissioner has given us a bit of an update on his itinerary, telling RN Breakfast this morning that he believes the Prime Minister will be heading to Alice Springs today. It seems a fairly high-powered delegation is en route to Central Australia, with the Northern Territory Chief Minister also making the trip today to speak with locals about the crisis hitting Alice Springs, trying to get a sense of exactly what may be needed in terms of resourcing to tackle this surge in crime. We know that there have already been calls for federal intervention here, demands for, as an example, the Australian Federal Police to be brought in. So far, those demands have been knocked back. So we'll see whether or not there are any developments after the Chief Minister and potentially the Prime Minister arrive in Alice Springs today and have those discussions. The Northern Territory Police Commissioner, Jamie Chalker, says that it's very important for leaders to get a sense on the ground about what exactly is happening.
I understand that the Prime Minister is travelling there. I know the Chief Minister is heading down there this morning as well. I think it's a positive that both are going down there to see what is occurring on the ground and doing a lot of listening. But of course, what I would urge is that I really need to be able to have the opportunity to meet with leads of Australian government agencies as well as the CEOs of Northern Territory government agencies to put in place a really solid plan working with traditional owners and Aboriginal leaders across the Northern Territory.
And Matthew, where's the political discussion at around this? Well, this has been something that the opposition leader, Peter Dutton, has been making a lot of noise about over the last couple of days or so. He's been demanding that the Prime Minister make the trip to Alice Springs to talk with locals and show, as he describes it, some leadership on this issue. He's even harked back to the time when Anthony Albanese was the opposition leader and would criticise the then Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, for failing to show up when there were things like natural disasters, likening the crime wave in Alice Springs to that and saying that Anthony Albanese needs to meet with local leaders to hear their concerns and to help formulate some sort of response on behalf of the federal government to help the Alice Springs community. He's also engaged in a war of words with the Northern Territory government there. We know that there have been some fairly frank character assessments being lobbed back and forth between Mr Dutton's office and the Northern Territory government. The Northern Territory Police Minister accusing Peter Dutton of trying to simply score cheap political points by making this argument at a national stage, and Peter Dutton reiterating his thoughts on the Northern Territory Police Minister earlier this morning.
The Northern Territory Police Minister, I think, is beyond incompetent. Some of her comments in the last week have just been quite amazing and completely at odds with what the Indigenous people were telling me on the ground in Alice Springs. Not just Alice Springs, but other parts of the Northern Territory as well. It's not a race thing, it's a law and order and a crime problem, and we want those kids to grow up in a safe environment, and the Prime Minister has the resources, has the ability, and should show the leadership.
I'm sure that he'll get there in the near future, and he does get around this country, as you've seen, so, watch this place. But